In this video, I'd like to talk about the Revolve feature. With Revolve, you just start a new sketch, and I always start a Revolve by creating a center line. Wherever my axis of the Revolve is, that's where you put your center line. And you ought to convert that to center line right away. Now, there's a couple of different things that you can do with a Revolve. Well, there's a lot of things. Revolve. And this will make a torus or a washer type shape. If we go back in and edit that sketch, we could create two bodies in a single feature. If we go back to the sketch, there's a couple of things you can't do. For example, you can't touch the center line at a point. Okay, the error says sketch is open, self-intersecting, or intersects the center line. Well, it's the third one. No mystery there. What we can do is we can intersect the center line, but we can't intersect it at a point. Okay, so if you do something like this, you're going to get something that doesn't have a hole in the middle. The other shape, even if we could have revolved it, it would have given us a zero thickness condition. So right at the center, if we cut a section view here, it would have had a zero thickness right at the center. Because this one intersected at a line, it gives us a good solid. The other thing you can't do, or another thing you can't do, is you can't go across the center line like this. You'll probably get that same error. Okay, intersects the center line. Intersecting the center line isn't a crime, but you have to do it like this sketch does it. You can't do it like this sketch or like the previous triangle. You can do a nested sketch. So if we have a situation like this. Now, if we change this to a wireframe view, we can see that we have internal voids inside this part. We can have the nested sketch. Let's simplify this sketch again. And what I'd like to do now is go and edit the feature and see what kinds of options we have in the feature. We can have a direction 1 and a direction 2, so this can go 180 degrees. And of course, these can be degrees or radians. You have to be a pretty big geek to revolve in radians, I think. Bigger geek than I am, that's for sure. You can also set up direction 2 and make it go a set number of degrees in that direction. Now, sometimes you get functions in the feature the first time you run it that you don't get when you edit the feature. So let's give that a shot. Revolve. And feature here that we could get is the thin feature. If we revolve this, take a section, you can see that it's a shelled out hollow solid. Another thing that you can do with the revolve is to select contours in your sketch. So let's just make a new sketch for this. I'm going to speed this sketching up just to get through it quicker. To select contours, some intersecting areas like this. From here, we can run the revolve. Selected contours. I'm going to select this one and that one. I'm keeping them from being, I wouldn't select that one because this might give us a zero thickness, or it might just give us a separate body. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, we got 3 separate bodies, and that's how we avoided the zero thickness corner. I don't recommend this kind of thing because your sketches can change and you can change the intersecting areas of this, and then you have to go back and reselect all the contours again. I personally avoid this kind of work, but sometimes I know you've got to do it. There is also an option to revolve surfaces. Looks like pretty much the same set of options. There's also, under features, there's the revolved cut. So revolve is not as evolved a feature as the extrude feature is, with many different options. But there are still a few things that you can do. Let's try something else. Let's show this sketch, open a sketch, another sketch on another plane, and see if we can revolve using a line from a different sketch. Yes. Okay. You can do that. Okay, let's turn this one off and see if we can show the temporary axes. And can we revolve using a temporary axis from another feature? Yes. So there's several options here that you can use for your axis of revolution. You might even be able to use a corner or an edge of an existing part. Okay, yes, so you can use a sketch line in another sketch, a temporary axis, a regular axis, or an edge from the solid. So there are a lot of options here. And just so you know, the original sketch, the center line, doesn't have to be set up as a center line. It could just be a regular line. But I feel that the sketch gets a little confused when you try to do something like that. So the original feature still works if you use a regular line. I personally like to use the center line just to keep everything visually organized. Another thing that comes up from time to time is when create a sketch like this, let's say that everything is the way it should be, right? Okay, so we're going to fully define the sketch. And let's do that. Let's do this. And let's do this. Okay, so now the full sketch is fully defined, right? No. It's underdefined. Look down here. It says it's underdefined. What's underdefined about it? The length of the center line. Okay? This is something that'll get you every time. And does it matter? No, it doesn't matter at all. But some people still get bent out of shape if their center line isn't dimensioned properly. Well, how do you properly dimension a center line? You don't. It doesn't matter how long that center line is. So I don't get caught up in the everything's got to be fully defined sort of mantra. I fully define something if I want to control it. If I don't need to control it, or I don't need to move it, or if it doesn't need to change, then I may or may not define it. And the final thing I want to show is that I get asked from time to time, how do you make a sphere in SolidWorks? That's easy enough. We're going to start out again with our center line, just as usual, and then I'm going to draw a center point arc. And that center point arc is going to be centered on the origin. I'll drag out a radius and include half of it. Switch to a line, close up, and then I'll go ahead and revolve using the center line as the axis of revolution And with that, we have a magic sphere. Okay, that's how you do it. It's just a half of a circle in a sketch. Those are just some thoughts on the Revolve feature. Thanks for watching.